live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Wednesday, May 25th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you could win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's very easy to play. First, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, tonight in basketball, could be something like the number of points a player will score, the number of turnovers he has, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, anything that they have listed there. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you could win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you pick 5 out of 5 and you get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I could join with all my buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see and copy what my friends are playing. They can see and copy what I'm playing. We could all see and copy what the guy who won 3 days in a row is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody is riding it out together, rooting for the same things. So stop what you're doing now and download the Sleeper app to play in their new over-under game. Have some fun with your friends and make some money in the process. On your mobile phone, join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNbets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, go down to the description and you'll see it there, sleeper.com/FTNbets, and you'll get a $100 match on that first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for the details. Tonight, we're going to talk about Game 5 in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. This has been a very strange series, to say the least. It is tied up at 2-2 between Boston and Miami. Each team went 1-1 on the other team's home floor. And the totals of these games, I shouldn't say the totals. I should say the final scores of these games have really been, feast or famine for both of these teams. Miami won the first game at home by 11, lost the second game by 25. They came back in the only game that's been in single digits in this entire series so far, won Game 3 in Boston by 6 points, and then turned around and lost to Boston in Game 4 by 20. Miami did what they were supposed to do, though. They went into Boston after losing a game in Miami and losing home court advantage. They went into Boston. They won one of those 2 games to get home court advantage back. We're basically down to a 3-game series now with Miami having 2 home games here. This, Game 5, being a very pivotal game in the series. So let's start with the injury information here. Marcus Smart listed as questionable with an ankle injury. Let's see. He aggravated it in Game 3. He sat out Game 4. It is looking like he's going to play in Game 5. But again, whenever a guy sits, I always want to get confirmation that he's going to be playing before he's in, which is one of the reasons why I avoided all the Marcus Smart props here today. Robert Williams is another guy who's a little banged up. He also sat out. What did he sit out? Game 3. I think he missed Game 3, came back for Game 4, played in Game 1 and Game 2. He has a knee injury that's been bothering him all playoffs. So I think from now, basically until the Celtics are eliminated, whether it be this round or in the championship, he's going to be listed as questionable and is going to be a game by game kind of decision as well. So we'll have to see what happens with Marcus Smart and Robert Williams here today for Boston. On the Miami side, they have a bunch of injuries going on too. Tyler Hero has a pulled groin, and from what I'm reading, it's bad enough that if this wasn't the playoffs right now, if they weren't, fighting to stay alive and move on to play in the finals, he would probably be out. This is an injury that supposedly keeps guys out anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks most of the time. So Hero is obviously not anywhere near 100%. And you can see that by the way that he's played so far in these playoffs. And even Miami knows this too, because they're kind of managing his minutes way more than they normally would. Tyler Hero was arguably considered one of the big 3 on this team, along with Jimmy Butler and, Bam Adebayo, who were the guys that were supposed to be carrying them. We saw Tyler Hero have some really good games, 6th man of the year kind of guy. And he really hasn't looked that good at all in the playoffs here. And it's obviously a problem for Miami. Now, Miami is deep. They do have enough guys to step in. I mean, not many teams have the luxury of having a former all-star like Victor Oladipo sitting on their bench that they could just put in there when they need an extra guy. And that's kind of what we've seen a lot of this series, because between Kyle Lowry being out for a little bit and Tyler Hero being out in the last game, Miami hasn't played with their full deck of cards so far, so to speak, throughout the entire series. Lowry, another guy who's a little banged up, looks like he's going to play here today. There's 4 or 5 other guys on Miami that are listed as questionable, Max Strus being one of them. These guys have been listed as questionable throughout the playoffs. If you've seen Miami in the last series, even in this series, every game they have 4 to 6 guys listed as questionable. And most of the time those guys play, but we're going to have to wait and see if Tyler Hero is going to be able to go, assuming Kyle Lowry is going to be able to go, Max Strus, we're going to have to make sure that all these guys are going to be playing here tonight. So we may have to go back and adjust some things later on, depending on, what the news that we get is. So let's talk about the spread on this game here. So Boston is a road favorite in this game. They opened as a 1-point road favorite, and it's actually drifted up a little bit to 1.5 to even -2 in some spots here. If you still want to get money down on the Boston Celtics, the best price you can get, -1.5, -110, DraftKings, MGM, Caesars, all have it sitting at that number right there. If you're looking to get money down on the Miami side, you can get Miami at +2, juiced up a little bit at a -112 over on FanDuel. That would be the best place to play the Miami Heat here today. What am I looking at for this game here? I mean, you know what? The Celtics have 2 20-point wins in this series. The Celtics are the healthier, relatively speaking, team between the two, depending on what happens tonight with some of these Miami guys. And like I said, even if a guy like Tyler Hero does play, like, you can't expect Tyler Hero to be 100% and to give you, the best kind of Tyler Hero games we've seen. Even if he plays, he's not anywhere near 100%. So, I still look at the Celtics as the healthier team here one way or another. I don't think it's crazy that the Celtics are favored here. What this would really mean is that the Celtics are 4 points to 5 points better than the Miami Heat on a neutral floor. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, which is why I'm kind of avoiding anything here. I mean, to me, at the beginning of this, I said to you guys that this series is basically a coin flip. You look at the series prices right now, it's basically a coin flip. These two teams are very evenly matched. I don't want to take a road favorite in the series where you have two teams that are evenly matched and it's kind of a coin flip, unless we get a bunch of news about a bunch of guys on Miami being out here tonight. And like I said, if that is the case, make sure you guys tune into the NBA show that we have over here on FTN every night. The guys go over all of the fantasy implications of everything. And, with the fantasy implications, they also talk a little bit about some of the betting stuff as well and, who they like. Fast Eddie Fear does a really good job. So definitely make sure you check out him. I think it's him and Zach are going to be on the stream here tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Might be Alex as well. I'm not really sure, but all those guys are great. I listen to it every night. So make sure you guys get over to the FTN Network YouTube channel and you can check all that stuff out to get some of those updates later on in the day. So now we're going to go on and talk about the total of this game here. And the total is one that's kind of held steady. It opened at 203.5. You can play, it's basically 203.5 on every site. If you want the best price, you can play the over 203.5 on PointsBet at a -105, a little bit of reduced juice there. If you want to play an under the 203.5, DraftKings, MGM, Bet Rivers, FanDuel, Caesars, Sugar House, all have the under here at -110 standard juice. So that's where it is. Like I said, that's where it opened. That's where it's still sitting on most sites right now. I'm not really sure what to do with this total here, and I'll explain to you guys why. Game 1, 225 total points. Game 2, 229 total points. Game 3, 212 total points. And then game 4, when Miami had a whole bunch of guys beat up and got blown out by 20, it was 184 total points. So 3 of the 4 games have gone over this total here, but the last game that they played went under this total by 20 points. I mean, do you expect Miami to bounce back? I do. They're at home. I expect them to bounce back. I don't expect this game to be a 20-point Celtic blowout. So I think the over is probably the way to go. What you really are hoping for here, if you're playing an over, is that this game doesn't turn into a blowout like a lot of the games we have recently. A lot of these totals seemed pretty low in the last couple week or so, maybe week or two, but a lot of them have wound up going under, mostly because a lot of these games have turned into blowouts lately. I mean, I can't believe how many blowouts we've had on both sides, like both teams in either one of these games how many of these like one-sided games that we've had in the playoffs here? This is not something we normally see. Normally the playoffs, by the time you get to this point, all the teams are very good. They're all pretty evenly matched. You get a lot of games that come down to the fourth quarter, a couple points one way or another. That really hasn't been the case. It almost looks like teams are taking turns right now as, oh, we're going to come to play today. Oh, you're going to come to play today. We'll take the day off. That's the way that this playoffs has been, which is, very strange for the way that things normally work out. So like I said, if I'm interested in anything here, I would be interested in the over on points bet at minus 105. That's probably the best value and the best way to play this game here today. So that would be the way that I'd be looking at doing it if I was interested in the total here today. If I put any money on it, though, it's not going to be one of my bigger bets of the day. It'll be a small kind of bet, maybe something I throw into a single game parlay if I'm using, one of those bonuses that one of the betting sites has here today. So now let's move on and talk about some of the player prop over-unders. There's quite a few that I'm interested in here today. We'll start with Bam Adebayo under 16.5 points. This is one of my favorite plays over on Sleeper here today, and I'll tell you why. FanDuel, BetRivers, Sugar House, Unibet all have this down at 15.5 instead of 16.5. And even at 15.5, the under is minus 104 to minus 109 on those sites. The only sites that have it left at 16.5 are DraftKings at minus 135 for the under, MGM and Caesars at minus 130 for the under. So again, you're talking minus 130, minus 135. You're talking implied probability of like 56, 57% that this is something that's likely to happen here. Bam had one big game in the series. The game that Jimmy didn't play in the second half, Bam ended up with 31 points in that game. The other three games of the series, though, Bam Adebayo has had 10 points, 6 points, and 9 points, which is well below the 16.5 here, which is why I'm looking at it here. Could this be another big outlier Bam Adebayo offensive game? Sure, maybe it could be. But overall, when you're looking at this, he has not had a very good series scoring the basketball, with the exception of game 3 there where they had to lean on him a little more. So I am a big fan of the under 16.5 points on Bam Adebayo, and I like this one a lot on the Sleeper app here today. That's the place that I'd be looking to play it. Next one I want to talk about is one of my favorite bets, whether we're talking about Sleeper or any of the sports books here today, and that's going to be Jaylen Brown over 6.5 rebounds. 4 games this series, he's finished with 10, 8, 9, and 7 rebounds in the last game, despite only playing 30 minutes because it turned into a blowout. He has 8 or more rebounds in 7 of the last 9 playoff games that he's played, not just this series, but even going back to the Milwaukee series as well. And the thing that I really like about Jaylen Brown is, listen, last game he only played 30 minutes. I don't even think he played 30 minutes. I think it was like 29 minutes. But they won that game by 20-something. If you expect this game to be a lot closer, which I do here tonight, in the close games that they played in the series, the games that, the Celtics didn't win by 20-plus points, Jaylen Brown's playing like 41, 42 minutes in those games. So if you're going to get 40-plus minutes out of Jaylen Brown, then yeah, I do think that the rebounding numbers are going to be high, and I do think he's going to be able to get over this. This is minus 130 on Unibet, Sugar House, and MGM, but you can get this as cheap as minus 118 for over 6.5 rebounds on FanDuel. I like that a lot there. And then even on the Sleeper app, like I said, I like this play a lot, so I think it is something that I would be willing to include. And again, at minus 130, you're looking at like a 56% chance of happening there. FanDuel has it closer to minus 120, which is, probably about a 53, 54% chance somewhere in there. But I definitely think that this is one we should look at. Jaylen Brown over 6.5 rebounds. Next one up is going to be Kyle Lowry over 4.5 assists. Big numbers. Most books have this at like minus 125. FanDuel has it as high as minus 134. And I always like being on the same side as FanDuel because I think there's some of the sharper guys out there when it comes to player props. Lowry's only played in 2 games this series. The last game, we can kind of toss that one out. He only played, I think, 21 minutes. That turned into a massive blowout. So, again, you don't want to take too much from that. But the other game that he played 29 minutes and had 6 assists in game 3. So, to get him over 4.5 assists, I don't think is a big stretch. Like I said, FanDuel has this at minus 135, 57, 58% chance in there. I like Kyle Lowry over 4.5 assists. Like it a little more on Sleeper than I do on the sports books today. Same thing with Al Horford rebounds. Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds, minus 127 on Unibet, minus 135 to minus 145 on the other books. Hell, FanDuel even bumped this up from 8.5 to 9.5 rebounds, although they do have it juiced up at plus 110 over there. The last 2 games, I think Horford missed 1 game of the series, but the last 2 games, he has 13 and 14 rebounds in those last 2 games. So asking him to get over 8.5 here is not a big ask when 13 and 14 is what he put up in the last 2 games. And remember, he didn't even play a ton of minutes in that last game, and he still had 13 rebounds. So, I think there's a lot of upside on the rebounding here for Al Horford. I actually like this way more on the sleeper app than I do on the sports books. Again, I don't want to play. I think the cheapest I can get it at is minus 127 on Unibet. I don't really want to play this at minus 127. But the fact that it is minus 127, minus 135, and even bumped up to 9.5 in spots does give me a lot of faith in going with the over here. So Al Horford, sleeper, I like the over on his 6.5 rebounds. I was interested in Robert Williams over 6.5 rebounds too. He had 9 rebounds in 2 of the 3 games that he's played in this series. But again, with him being banged up, I'm just a little bit nervous about that. So I wanted to mention it. It is like minus 125 to minus 130 on, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars. I feel like it would be a good play if I had a little more faith that he was actually going to be out there playing. So like I said, I wanted to mention Robert Williams, but not something I'm putting a ton of stock in here today. And then the last one that I'm looking to play on the sports books is going to be Jimmy Butler under 24.5 points here today. Minus 104 on FanDuel. It's minus 120 on sites like BetMGM and Caesars. So Jimmy had 8 points in the game 3. Now remember, he only played half of game 3. He sat out the second half. But last game he came back, he only had 6 points. So I'm not saying that Jimmy can't turn things around. And I think Jimmy Butler is an absolute great player. But I also think that Jimmy Butler is playing at less than 100% too. And at less than 100% to ask him to score 25 points, not really something that I have a ton of faith in here, which is why I do like that under. Again, minus 104 on FanDuel is the number we can get. It's minus 120 on sites like BetMGM and Caesars. So getting this on minus 104 on FanDuel is something that I really like. And this is one of those that I like a lot better on the books than I do over on the sleeper app here today. So just to recap real quick, if you're looking to put some bets down on the sports books, I love that over 6.5 rebounds for Jaylen Brown, minus 118 on FanDuel. I like the under 24 points for Jimmy Butler at minus 104 on FanDuel. And then the other 3 are 3 that I like for the sleeper app. So we're going to talk about those here today. Our sleeper play of the day. Remember, you guys can get down to the description below here, sleeper.com/FTNBets. Let you join our sleeper group over here. And if you put in $100, they will match that 100 with another 100, giving you $200 to play with. And that is really what we want to take advantage of here today. And I'll tell you why. Here's going to be my sleeper play of the day. Put in that $100, get that $100 match. You got $200 now that you can play with. You put that $200 on Bam Adebayo under 16.5 points. Remember, only one game this series he's been over that. The other games he's been way under. This is something that is, in that minus 130, minus 140 range. So 57% chance likely to happen. Bam Adebayo under 16.5 points is going to be my first leg. And then the second leg is going to be the one we just talked about with Al Horford here. Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds. I love the fact that this is at the minus 130, minus 140 range as well. I love the fact that FanDuel, one of the sharper books out there, already moved it up to, 9.5. I think that we're going to get another over here from Al Horford coming off of 14 and 13 rebound games in his last 2. So you go Bam Adebayo under 16.5 points, Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds. That full $200 that you had to play with for signing up for a new account on Sleeper, it's going to return $600 to you if you are correct. And both of these guys do what we expect them to do today. That's going to be $100 out of your pocket to get $600 in your Sleeper account. That's a plus 500 return. If you parlay these 2 things together on any sports book today, you're going to get somewhere in the plus 330 range, maybe. So would you rather have $330 or would you rather have $600? And that's really what it comes down to here when we're looking at it. So remember, get down to the description, sign up for Sleeper, put that $100 in, and you'll be very happy at the end of the evening here today. One last thing I want to mention, football season is right around the corner. For anybody who hasn't already gotten over to FTN Bets, FTN Daily, or FTN Fantasy to sign up for a new account, my promo code is active. You can use promo code Benny, BENNY, over at any one of those sites, and you can save 20% off a package. I would definitely tell you right now, the FTN Fantasy one, get over there. The early bird pricing is still in effect. The super early bird pricing is still in effect, I should say. The early bird pricing actually goes into effect, I think, either in June or July. But you're getting it at the best possible price you're going to get it at now for the season. Use promo code Benny. You even save 20% off on that. It's one of the best deals you're going to find out there in the market. And that is the last tip I have for you guys for the day on how to make some money and make yourself successful and profitable betting on and playing fantasy sports. So this is Benny Ricciardi signing off for the FTN Bets Cast for Wednesday, May 25th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.